Now, the Nigerian workplace is undergoing significant changes from the rise of hybrid work models to shifts in employment trends and challenges around recruitment, remuneration, and retention. Our discussion is informed by the recent published Nigerian Workplace Report, which sheds light on key aspects such as employee satisfaction, workplace culture, and the dynamics of power between employers and their staff.
So we're going to be hearing insights from both local and international perspectives to better understand these workplace dynamics, whether it applies here as it does there. We'll find out. Joining us are two very, very distinguished gentlemen, Yinka Awosanya, Head of Research Intelpoint rather, whose team actually produced the Nigerian Workplace Report, and Chika Alfred, a project manager at Nottingham City Council with experience working in international environments. They will help us unpack the key issues facing the Nigerian workforce place. You're welcome, gentlemen. Good to have you guys here.
Right. Thank you for having me.
So I'll let Judith first fire the first questions.
Yinka, I'm going to start with you because basically you recently released the Nigerian Workplace Report, which highlights, key issues in employees and employer relationship and just basically the dynamics. What really prompted this report, and what's the key takeaway for you when you were doing this?
Okay, so it's a lot. So what prompted the report? So we did an event last year at Intelpoint, which is the modern workplace, where we bring together people working in Nigeria, HR, and everybody in between to discuss topics around how people work and what they do and stuff like that. So it was after the report then. Actually, like, okay, after the event, okay, let's just do a report that looks at this and beyond just having people come to an event, then work with Old School Africa to say, okay, yes, let's do something around the Nigerian workspace, because so far we've not had any report that really looked at the Nigerian workplace, which is why, okay, yes, let's do this. And then it was a roller coaster up and down, a lot of back and forth here and there. But then, of course, it was released Monday, and so we'll be getting a lot of...
Let me ask you, in putting together this report, what was the key issues that struck you yourself and your team, the dynamics that struck yourself and your team?
So one would be the remuneration rather. So we've done a couple of reports in the past that looks at people, how much people earn, but then it's still being the same thing that, yes, a lot of Nigerians are not earning that much. So say about 50% don't earn up to 201,000 naira. So like every other person are doing 50% are doing way below that, where the other 50. And then when you move closer, go above, see that the number drops.
Wow. Wow.
I would like to find out from Chika if this is what applies in other countries, especially where you are resident. Chika, what's the employer-employer relationship like at your end of the world?
Thank you, Mazino. From my experience working working from where I am, I live in the UK. I'll say the dynamics of the employee-employer relations compared to Nigeria, differ in several key areas. It is largely shaped by cultural, economic, or regulatory context. Organizational culture and hierarchies, we all know in Nigeria, the workplace culture in Nigeria tends to be more hierarchical and formal, with clear distinctions between senior management and the junior staff. Decision-making often follows a top-to-down approach. And employees typically have less direct access to higher management. In the UK, in contrast, the UK workplace culture tends to be more collaborative and egalitarian, so there's some form of equality when it comes to that. The hierarchical, not that the hierarchy doesn't exist, it does, but there's a general more openness with employees being encouraged to voice their opinion, and participate in decision making. I heard Mr. Ayo talk about the salary scale, if I'm correct, if I did listen properly. In Nigeria, recently we have seen the argument that comes about what minimum wage should look like between 70,000 and what have you. Here in the UK, I'm sure you all know, and I'm sure Mr. Ayo will agree with me, that the minimum wage that is being put out here in the UK for everybody working from the lower class to from the lower strata to the higher strata, tends to balance with what we have within the economy. So there's a difference when it comes to comparing that with Nigeria. Another thing I'll say very quickly, things like employment rights and labor laws that tend to differ between Nigeria and the UK. In Nigeria, we see how things are going within the labor unions and in the government when it comes to employment, salaries, and other things. Here in the UK has a well-established employment laws that provide strong protection for employees. Such as comprehensive health and safety. They take that very seriously. Equal opportunities, anti-discrimination policies. These are things that are in effect here. There are certain things you can't even say in the workplace that we say in Nigeria, a boss can say to an employee and get away with it. There are certain things you can't even say here in the UK to a staff and you get away with it. Supervisor won't dare, how much more a manager, and get away with it. Yeah,
I was wondering how all of this. I was wondering how all of this works to the output. How does it affect what the employers are putting out? Does it help? And if we were to bring that here to Nigeria, how would that seem like?
It does. From my experience, it does put, add value to the output. Okay, for example, I work as a project manager. I've been doing that, for a few years now, and I've been working remotely since COVID, right? And every now and then, even though I work remotely, they tend to ask me questions like, how is your health and well-being? Are you okay? Do you want to come to the office? Do you want to go out? You can take your laptop to a certain place where you could work remotely. You can come to the office if you want. We have a hot desk. We have this, we have that. They check up on me all the time to make sure that I'm okay, because they want me to make sure that I add value to the organization's bottom line. So when they do that, what does that do for me? That makes me feel welcome. That makes me feel that, yes, I need to put in my best where I am. I'm working from home. I've been doing that, like I said, since COVID. I've only worked once hybrid, one of my contracts as a project manager, and I was going to the office once or twice, depending on what, how I want to work it out. When it comes to output for employees, these policies are not rocket science. These people have put it in place here and is working. I know that some organizations in Nigeria, some big-time organizations in Nigeria, are also practicing some of these policies in order to get proper returns on from their employees. I believe that if most organizations, if not all, whether it's private sector or public sector, put all these things in place, right, they would certainly help in trying to boost employee returns in the organization. And I'm sure Ayo would agree with me.
Actually, it's Yinka. Yinka, let me come to you and ask
Yinka,
you.
sorry. Yinka Awosanya. Sorry, Yinka.
Let me come to you, Yinka, and ask you about the report, right? It mentions a shift towards, hybrid work models. I'm going to piggyback off of Chika's response. The shift towards hybrid work models has somewhat not worked for many companies, and they're still struggling with the transition. Another is employee retention. Many will see cases like tech, industries like tech and media, where we're seeing, employees exit and having employers have to re-employ and retrain and reintegrate, their staff. So I'd like for you to talk about, the report mentioning this too and what your findings were.
Okay, first, so from the respondent we spoke with, about 53% thereabouts are working on site, while only 70% are doing remote, 17 are doing remote, and another 20-something doing hybrid. But then, so for remote and hybrid, COVID happened and it kind of like shifts the workplace to say, okay, yes, let's go full remote. During COVID, my company went fully remote. The company went fully remote. But then we came back from COVID and we kind of like make it hybrid. And right now, some people come to work only twice a month, while others do 4. So, but then there is that shift. But then not all companies can afford to do that.
And why is that?
Okay, so there's this dynamics at play. So, say banking, for instance, as much as we are technology is tech savvy in the country, not a lot of people still have access to say, let me do this thing on my phone. So people will still rather go to the bank to go and complain if they have anything. So banking definitely is completely out of it. It's not something I say, okay, yes, let me do this thing remotely. Media, for instance, yes, you can, at least during COVID, people were broadcasting from their homes, yes. But then, so there's the office place dynamic that if your work doesn't permit it, there's really not much that can be put into it. Then about employee retention, so there's a trend that we notice in the report is that the older people are, the more they are likely to stay with the company. So the younger folks are like just going to do 1, 2, 3 years and bounce. But then you get to 35, 40, 45, so your chances of staying longer is there.
Very interesting. And I like that you say that. Then how then can companies retain employees? Because I understand that must be expensive for them, having to rehire, renegotiate, reintegrate, into the system.
It is. So the reports, we look at what people are getting aside salary. So then you have people that are getting up to 7 other non-remuneration. So you have the health insurance, gym subscription, and all of that. But then what we've noticed is that there are some that are getting as high as 5 to 7 other benefits aside salary. But then that doesn't still keep them. You see, yes, they left the company after 2 years. So that is not enough. But then, so one thing that the other thing is the work toxicity and workplace toxicity. So why people leave. So you have a case of efforts not being appreciated and stuff like that, and you are working long hours, and then there's, at the end of the day, your remuneration doesn't factor in the long hours you are putting in. Your salary says you are earning 20K, and at the end of the month you are getting 20K, irrespective of the long hours you put in. So workplace toxicity and a couple of other things are contributing to why people are just, okay, yes, I really can't do this anymore.
Yinka, let's factor in the biggest factor now, this month. Let's factor in Nigeria.
Yeah.
The economy is not smiling. Now, your research, I don't know if you covered this, but what can companies do currently that can help employees? Because it's not easy. You pay double what you used to pay to get to work. You get to work, I mean, after spending hours in traffic, you go home, there's no power, this and that. Now, considering all these factors, that even working from home is also quite a process because you have to have fuel at home, which you might not be able to afford.
Internet.
Internet. And then there's the issue of data of service provision, which the providers these days have been really, really, really terrible. Terrible.
It's okay.
What can be done now in the Nigerian instance?
So say a balance between the employer and the employee. So if, yes, the price of things are going way, way up. I asked someone to come fix something in my place in August, and the price was around 20-something thousand. Now it's around 30-something thousand naira. Just special. So things are definitely going up. But then it's a case of trying to have a balance. So you have companies that say, okay, yes, you want to work from home, so we give you internet allowance, we give you a fuel allowance in case you need to fill up. A couple of months ago, there was this startup founder that was literally carrying fuel. He was doing fuel scarcity, carrying fuel to go and deliver
to employees.
To employees that are working remotely.
I think I know that company, but I'm not going to say it.
Yeah, so
it's a delivery company, isn't it?
It's a delivery. I can't remember what they were building something, and they need to ship. And I'm like, okay, yes, it has to go and be delivering for. So it's a case of, yes, the company, and in most cases, this company are also struggling as well because we are all in this economy together.
Right.
Just creating a balance. Okay, so the economy does this, or what it wants to do to support it, while the employees also do their own part.
Chika, let me come to you. This report also highlights poor communication and micromanagement, and saying that which has led to high employee turnover. What's your take on this in terms of are these challenges also common in international workplace, and what solutions has been most effective globally for situations like this?
Thank you. I'll say workplace challenges such as poor communication and micromanagement are indeed common in various workplaces, globally. Here in the UK, the degree to which these challenges impact organizations and their strategies, there are ways in which these things have been addressed. For example, looking at it from a global perspective, poor communication is a widespread issue in many countries, as we know, and an industry, and it can result in misunderstanding or decreased productivity. Now, in the UK here, communication breakdown still occur, especially within large organizations, and they tend to put in some things in place in order to make that not to cause any problem. So it's just effective solutions could be the adoption of digital communication tools. Remember, I did say to you that I've been working from home since 2020, and they made sure once they provided me with the tools, the laptop, my ergonomic desk and chairs and everything that I use to work from home to make sure that I'm comfortable. We tend to have regular meetings and feedback loops. So these things tend to bridge that communication gap. They need to know how I'm doing. They need to know if I need anything. They need to know if there's any challenges within my work or my task that I need to talk about, so they could bring somebody in. If I have any technical issues, they tend to find a way to make sure they reach out to me. And they also provide training. I can count the number of trainings I've done since I've lived here. Communication training, this training and that training. They provide these tools and these platforms for us to take loads of trainings when it comes to things that has to do with, for example, communication.
Let's quickly
micromanagement. Looking at
sorry, press for time. Let's quickly prefer solutions, right? If a Nigerian company were to look into going international, giving all of this, the trainings, the continually touching base with, the higher ups and also your team lead, what will be your solutions, if they're going to go global? What are the best practices should they ought to take? Very quickly, because we're pressed for time.
Yeah, promoting autonomy is one. It's very important to promote autonomy. Global companies are realizing the importance of empowering employees. So that's one. Another point I'll make is improving communication channels across the workplace. Things like we're using Zoom right now, Teams and other platforms and other channels of improving communication. They should focus on leadership development. That's another key area. I know a lot of leadership training that I have done in the past up to today. Then employee well-being programs. In the UK, employees' well-being has become a top priority, especially in the light of mental health these days. So they tend to want to check on everybody. So these are some of the points, based on time, I'll say that could be put in place. They're not rocket science. They're simple things that organizations can put in place in order to get good turnover.
Not rocket science, indeed. Chika, I want to say thank you very much. I also want to say thank you very much
I was going to ask
inside
him
of the
about
studio here with us.
Thank you.
I'm sure Yinka actually agrees, don't you, Yinka?
Yeah.
I mean, when it comes to the recommendations that you made, just very quickly, we're out of time.
Yes,
I was going to ask for recommendations, but Yinka wants to hear many thanks as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.